He's Taylor. Hello, and welcome to the Talkies, brought to you by Carmen Line Studios. We went and saw a movie today.
We did, and it was incredible.
Incredibles 2.
After the long-awaited, somewhat cliffhanger, it wasn't really a cliffhanger, but it was more of like a, because it always all finale. There was a lot of finality to the ending of the first Incredibles.
You just didn't know what happened after the Underminer shows up.
You just needed to
you
know.
just wanted to know. Yeah.
This movie, it literally starts exactly where the last movie ended.
And boy, did it suck. It was
did
terrible.
not suck.
Oh my god.
This was a fine movie. It was good.
I loved this movie.
Yeah, I really did enjoy it.
It was pretty much everything you would hope from an Incredibles sequel. Had just oozing with charm, right?
Absolutely.
That's what they do so well at Pixar in general, but especially with The Incredibles. I mean, I don't think I can define something as a family movie better than an entry into the Incredibles universe, because that's what the whole thing's about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember watching the first Incredibles and just loving it. And I've been like desperate for the conclusion to the Underminer kind of thing. You know, as a lot of people have been really desperate for a sequel to this movie.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that it took this long, I guess.
So overdue, and really, I always felt like it's the only Pixar property that truly merited a sequel.
I mean, Cars I really, really liked, but...
The original Cars? I love the original Cars.
Cars 2.
Cars
3.
2, no, bad choice.
No.
Yeah,
If Pixar needed a sequel to any of its films, it was Incredibles.
Yeah. I mean, the Toy Story series are fantastic. I like all entries in the Toy Story franchise thus far. They are making another, which I'm a bit skeptical about. But this was needed way more than we needed a Finding Dory,
Right.
or a
Cars 2
Cars
or
2
3.
or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made 3 Cars movies before they even made one sequel to Incredibles, which is kind of crazy to me. Yeah. But I'm glad it did come, and I'm glad that it actually did kind of live up to it.
They did it right.
Yeah,
they got all the cast back. They got Brad Bird doing the writing and directing, which was crucial. This just would not have flown if it wasn't Brad Bird.
I couldn't imagine. I wouldn't want to imagine.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bad word, a bad time.
I was a little skeptical going into this because I wasn't totally sold by the trailers on the aspect of the stay-at-home dad kind of scenario. I felt like that was going to play a much bigger role in the movie than it did, and I wasn't that interested in that. But it actually was a relative, like it was like a B plot to the main story, and so that in that regard, it worked out really well, and it was done really well executed, and it was really fun watching Jack do all his shenanigans.
Jack
he was
stole
like,
this movie.
Yeah, he was so fun.
Yeah.
So fun. And
Jack and Reflux.
Yeah.
The old man who belches.
The highlight
lava.
I
characters.
just laughed every time that he did anything.
That was a hilarious superpower to have.
Can we talk about how Incredibles being an animated film felt way more human than any other superhero film that's out at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a good reason for it. It's because Pixar as a company, they put story first. You know, we Dee and I have both read books on Pixar. The three of us have talked about them a lot, and they have almost a religious fervor for making sure a story is strong and is connecting emotionally before they take them through to production.
Right.
Now, there's a few moments where it looks like they may have broken their rules with those sequels we were talking about, but mostly the rule has been the characters always have a gimmick, right? They are superheroes, they are cars, they are bugs, but that is not the A1 topic.
Right.
The A1 topics are always human connection, relationships, and family, and things that each and every one of us in the audience identify with.
Yeah.
Those things always come first, and pretty much no one else gets that right.
Yeah. I mean, relating to your audience is what you tell stories to do in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a company that cares about that as opposed to, superpowers.
Right. Yeah, and being able to show vulnerabilities in your characters and showing like kind of the slight, maybe not the most glamorous side of their characters. Like we see Mr. Incredible's like jealousy and envy of his wife
and
being successful.
That like pushback between the two of them, of her saying, I've always kind of been overshadowed by you, and you've never really experienced what I've had to deal with, and him feeling like, this is really my territory that I should be doing, and that's so sincere.
Yeah, it was.
And you don't find stuff like that in Marvel movies, honestly,
or DC
movies.
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. We've been in these families.
Yeah.
We've been in those relationships.
Yeah.
And Pixar goes to great lengths to make sure that you see all the things that you need to see to know that that is a real family, right? On the drive home right after a movie, my first thing I wanted to talk about was like, oh my gosh, what a relief to have breathing room between jokes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because every other animation house out there that's putting out animated movies and a lot of live action movies, Marvel's guilty of this especially, it's just gag after gag after gag after gag, and eventually you become numb to it. It's just not funny anymore, and you're not leaving any room for story. Pixar tells very few jokes. They are spread out, and in between you see a brother and sister fighting, you see a dad doing math with his son, you see a boy complaining about vegetables, you see a mom brushing her teeth and talking about trying to keep her kids from going to jail. And these are all things that could happen in any story that have to do with humans.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that although its greatest strength, I thought it was also its greatest weakness in this movie. And the reason why I say that is because even though the movie, I don't think... how long was the movie?
I can't tell. It felt kind of...
to 2 hours.
Yeah, it felt a little longer.
Yes.
It felt long.
Yeah.
And the movie was quite enjoyable the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it. But yeah, there were definitely times when I felt like, okay, we're moving a little slower, which is fine for animation, especially for someone as big as Pixar to make like this big 3D studio, big 3D production that takes its time is really, really cool. But yeah, there were times in there where I'm just like, okay, we're slowing down a bit, and it's just moving kind of slow, and those. I mean, maybe what it is that I've become accustomed to other stuff that's moving so fast all the time,
Like Hereditary.
Okay, so that's something. So Hereditary never felt long,
And it moves slow.
and it moves slow.
I think what you're getting
slow.
what you're getting at is the story itself. While the Incredibles 2 story is good and interesting, I don't think it's quite as engaging as the first one.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
The only reason I can't give this movie full marks is that the actual plot line, while everything about it was charming and engaging, the plot line was very cliche and basic. And
I guess that's
the
what
reason
it
it
was.
began to feel long to me was because to me they tipped their hat in the first act. I knew who the bad guy was. It was so obvious.
Yeah.
The fact that the sister, who was kind of jaded about her brother and makes all the technology, but he gets all the attention, right?
Right.
Which is totally a Brad Bird trope thing. Like Syndrome became Syndrome
Right.
for the same reasons,
Yeah.
right? Those are his bad guys. And she's getting all chummy with Elastigirl, and I'm like, okay, no, she's the one behind it. He doesn't know. They're staging all this stuff, and it was obvious. And so without having that mystery in my head, it did feel a little slow.
Yeah.
So I wish I hadn't guessed the ending 20 minutes into the movie.
Maybe because the movie made it seem as if it was a mystery. Maybe that's why. Because to me,
Yeah.
I never try to. I can't watch a movie and just automatically think about the ending. It just doesn't happen in my way of thinking. But it was quite obvious when they revealed that the sister was the bad guy. I was just like, well, yeah, of course. But it didn't really take me out of the movie. I didn't.
And it wasn't like a whoa twist, you
right?
know? It wasn't
Maybe that's
shocking.
what it was. Yeah. So so the fact that it wasn't that way did make it feel kind of like.
Yeah, I'm definitely similar to you, where when I'm going to a movie, I don't try to predict anything. I just let it take me wherever it wants.
Yeah.
But almost as soon as the sister was introduced, I was like suspicious, and as soon as this screenslaver person was kind of shrouded in mystery, and realizing that the sister character hasn't actually done anything in the movie yet,
except that we know that she makes sophisticated
technology. Yeah,
right?
it's
so
just it's so obvious, and so going through a mystery where you kind of already know the solution is just, like you said, it's a slog.
But the reason the movie still shines despite that big error is because that was secondary to what I felt about Violet and her maybe boyfriend.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And what I felt about Mr. and Mrs. Incredible's relationship, and about trying to figure out what to do about Jack.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
What do you do if your baby can walk through the wall?
It's a character. The characters in this film hold the film up, and that's what elevates this film to being not bad and actually being a really good movie, is because these characters are so strong, and their interactions with each other are super well done.
Yeah. So
really
like
cool.
really it's like A+ execution of like a C+ plot line.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Which most movies are the opposite.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a good idea, but with like C+ execution.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas
exactly
the first Incredibles movie has like an awesome plot.
It's A+ all around.
Really well done.
That is on my list of perfect movies.
Yeah.
There's no flaws in that film.
It's very It's very, very good.
So I guess coming off of that, it's probably better that this movie came out 14 years later to give it some space.
It could be, yeah.
That might be true. If this had come out really like right on the heels of the other one, it may have felt a little disappointing.
Yeah.
I think so.
A cool thing one of the Brad Bird's strengths, I think, is action choreography and just action in general.
agree, yeah.
That's like one of his best suits. All of his action in all of his movies are always just top notch, and this movie's no exception. So anytime like an action scene's going on, it's like
they were
thrill.
Amazing.
Yeah,
they actually, the last sort of Royal Rumble there on the ship that was going down.
Yeah.
As the heroes were swapping sides from being mind controlled to not, seeing Elastigirl going against Void.
Right.
Yeah.
She was throwing portals all over.
She's punching
and
through
she ended
portals.
up punching herself in the face by going through a portal. Like, that was just so great.
And then she makes it so that she looks like she's going one way, I guess, and then she does a portal, but then she punches through a different portal to punch the girl.
Yeah.
And it's like all this little detail into such a fast scene.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's also, I think, another strength. Well, part of what makes his action so strong is he gets these really, really clever ideas done really fast, and he never like lingers on it. So like the scene where she does punch herself through the void is just like one and done, and you get it and you're like, wow, that was really interesting.
Right. They don't linger on these things.
Yeah, they don't have to like slow down, go in slow motion to show off how cool they are.
Right.
Or like even the main villain gets thrown out of the plane by her backpack thing just explodes. Last girl shoots a flare at her and she just flies out the window, and then we don't see her until like the end of the movie.
Very similar to how Syndrome dies.
Yeah, very quick.
If he died. I suppose you could be sucked into a jet engine and not die.
And live?
Maybe. If you're Syndrome.
You're extra careful. Careful around the blades.
Careful on the blades.
I really liked Edna Mode. I was thinking, she was such a special you know, accidental just
Like
treasure
icon.
of
Yeah.
the first movie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that when they wrote the script, they were not expecting that character to become so awesome
Right,
and
right.
iconic. And I thought bringing her back is very risky.
Yeah.
You know, you got it. Now there's like super high expectations.
There was, and they met.
And
all
she
of
was
them.
great.
She was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, just introducing new environments and letting characters play together and stuff is so good.
I really want to see Brad Bird do that voice because it just doesn't sound like it could come from him, and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's really funny. I want a T-shirt now with the Mode logo on it.
Me too. I had the same thought.
Yeah.
I had the same thought. I love the first time we see her, she's just like really pissed that another designer did Elastigirls.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so what they should have done, I think, to make it a little better was probably either make the mystery and twist of Screenslaver
Screenslaver.
One letter away.
yeah, more hidden, less obvious. I mean, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who've see the movie and maybe didn't get it until it was revealed, but we did get it. And
we're better than you.
because we're superior beings,
Right. Right.
Because we're film snobs.
So yeah, what I'm saying is, it's hard to, I guess, fault it on that if it's not necessarily a fault across all all the board.
I think 75% of the audience probably wouldn't identify with that concern.
Yeah,
I think I could be wrong.
but I think it still could have been better if Screenslaver was not like a twist reveal. You know,
What I could have enjoyed more. However, it would have been done at the expense of some other great things. Was having more Mr. and Mrs. Incredible as brainwashed, and
Oh, yeah.
controlled. Like if they had a crime spree or something like that, where they full on went dark and they were villains,
Right.
and it was up to the kids. You know,
Yeah.
I think that would have been a cool opportunity. But then we wouldn't have had Mr. Mom at home,
Right.
and all that gloriousness.
There's
Dude,
a-
the raccoon fight.
yeah,
That was
is
awesome.
probably my favorite.
That was so
scene
great.
of
That
this
was
whole
really good.
movie.
It's so
Seeing a baby fight a raccoon.
it's just so inventive. Like it really is. The strength is the characters.
Yeah.
Because Baby Jack is just a baby who's having fun.
Very, very authentic.
Right.
Yeah.
Having had 4.
Yeah.
It's just so clear that the people intimately related to this character, from the writing to the animation, have had babies.
Right.
They know babies because it felt real.
It was great.
Yeah.
I think something really interesting to point out is you don't have to be a family person to enjoy this family movie. You don't have to know teenage girls to like, to get invested in Violet. Again, you don't need to know new math to try to relate with the father. Like,
Yeah.
It's really cool that Pixar can get all these things that are supposedly everyone deals with all the time, but not all of everyone, and yet still make it super relatable. And I'm like on the edge of my seat saying, is Violet and Tony gonna get back together? Like when 13 Reasons Why is a Netflix show that banks its whole thing on teenage relationships, and I just couldn't care at all throughout the whole thing, And this is.
But you know what? Even though you haven't been Violet, I think in a way you have been Violet at some point.
Right.
And so have I,
Yeah.
And I think the reason why using family as like this universal motif for building character, for developing character in a movie is so successful is because whether you define yourself as a family man or not, you have belonged to a family of some sort, unless you've just been very unfortunate in life, and I'm sorry, no matter what, whether you may not be a dad, but you probably had one, or a mom, and have.
But because you had, doesn't mean that you be connected, like Death Wish, for example, which proposed to us this very, very, very perfect family that just.
Right, but they showed us a family that was
completely
authentic.
unrelatable.
That's just it. You put authentic families on the screen.
Yeah.
You identify even though it's not your family. It may not be your exact experience.
So it's the authenticity.
It's the authenticity of like a real sort of human condition.
Right. Right. That's what it is then.
To bring that up to even generalize that even further, I think it's authenticity, ingenuity is just
genuineness. Actually, is what it is.
Really?
Genuity is actually not a word. It's really dumb.
We've used it many times on this show. Genuity.
Yeah.
Genuineness?
Genuineness.
Genuineness.
It's really dumb. Yeah, it is.
I like genuity.
I do too. I'm going to stick with it, honestly.
Okay, it's a millennial word, from what I understand.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then it's canon. It's real. I mean, you and I qualify. We're millennials.
Yes. You're not,
Taylor,
so you can't
I don't
say it.
really know what they call you yet. There's not enough of you making money to matter.
Gen O's.
It sounds like cereal.
Gen O's.
Gen O's.
I think any person can kind of just instinctively know if something is genuine or not in an art form, if your characters are coming from some sort of genuine place. And I think regardless of the end result or the context of the characters, whether they be family or they're just a loner person or just whatever, I think the genuity there can make it easier for anybody to get invested and relate to it. Just because I think everybody tries to be at least somewhat genuine in some capacity of their life.
Yeah, but the very idea of trying to be genuine is
sort of ironic.
Yeah, I don't know if that's real. Which is why it's always said to write what you know.
Right.
You know? And I think every artist has an instinct to push back against that, because art is also a way to explore into things you don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a very true fact that when you try to present something that you're not intimately connected to yourself, that becomes part of the thing you're portraying.
Right.
You know.
Right. So like for example, I'm writing a story about a girl who is I guess a family person also. But the thing is, like, I've never actually been in that situation, and I've never been her. So her character will probably come off more as me, which will sound more not genuine from the audience standpoint.
But I think there's a way around that. I think the way around that is breaking her down farther from circumstances to emotions.
Yeah, well,
right?
I meant emotions.
If you break that down to feelings and emotions, there's probably very few that you haven't experienced, you know?
Yeah.
And then that's where you try to start to write from, I think. But yeah, personally, I wouldn't tackle a film where I'm writing about a teenage girl dealing with the fallout after an abortion, right? No matter how good of a story I came up with in my head,
right,
I'm not going to write that story.
Right.
I wouldn't do it justice. It wouldn't be good. Maybe I'd hire a good writer,
right,
who could, but I don't think I could do it well. And I think that was part of the problem with Ocean's 8.
Gary Ross.
Sorry, Gary Ross, but that just felt like a man writing a story
about women.
Instead of a story that actually happened with real women. Says this man.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I don't want to go.
Oh, go there, Taylor. Go there. In our Incredibles episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
about Ocean's 8.
It's so unrelated.
They come up in every episode now.
That's kind of why I don't like Deadpool 2 or a lot of the Marvel movies, is because they're not necessarily trying to be genuine. They're trying very hard to just be funny, but that's like it. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And I just can't really get into that at all.
Right.
Yeah,
no, that's totally it.
There's not a lot of soul. left in that
Yeah.
universe. You know, it's become so wrapped up in those specific characters that there's not enough room for really making things have real emotional weight.
Well, and it seems like even the stuff that, like, their characters' quirks and stuff like that don't feel like genuine quirks. They feel like written quirks. And I don't know how else to talk about this, but I mean, sometime in the future we'll cover storytelling, but like Rocket, for example, like, clearly has some issues, and you understand that he's a guy who's being really, really tough to make up for the fact that he's been, like, abused before. But you don't ever feel that. At least I don't. Like, when you're listening to him talk and stuff, you don't get the feeling that he's covering up stuff. You feel like he's a character who is mean, and then someone has written a backstory for him. That's what I feel like.
Well, I feel like they just don't take time to do what they did in The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Which was to show us those little, personality quirks actually coming out in their normal lives, right?
Right.
And they're outside of we're on a mission to save the good guy.
Right. And they come out when they're not convenient.
Right. In the Marvel movie, there's like no more room left anymore. In those, like, very early movies where they're setting the foundation for these characters, you had all these auxiliary characters that helped to build up who they were and give them emotional stakes, and that's why those movies are better.
Right. Well, all the origin stories are better because you have the character, because you grow the character. That's the thing. You learn about who they are, and then the sequels come up and they're only one-sided, and it feels
and it's
stilted.
Like I feel like they really take a pass on character development now, because they're like, well, it's all been developed. We don't have to do it.
Now we have
Yeah,
to do it.
now we don't have to do anything with them.
But really, you have to do it again in every movie.
You do.
We know who the Incredibles, we know this family.
Yeah.
But they still took the time to give us their characters in the first act of the movie. We got close to all of them.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has ever shown their characters in a downtime situation since that one scene in Age of Ultron where they're all sitting on the couch and trying to lift Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
Ever since then, it's constantly engaged in some crazy conspiracy plot, and they're never, like, just
unless you consider
going to sleep.
The sappy romance between Vision and Red Witch.
Oh yeah,
also felt forced.
That was really bad.
Really bad.
And it lasted, but it didn't last long either.
I was thinking about that scene. Speaking of The Incredibles.
Now we're just on to Marvel.
Vision in The Incredibles.
I was watching Blade Runner. I was watching Blade Runner yesterday. Blade Runner 2049, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And watching the romance between Ryan Gosling's character, what's his name in it again? Kay. So between Kay, who is a replicant, and his love interest, which is a piece of software.
Joy.
Yeah.
And feeling like their connection was so much more believable and relatable than what we saw between Vision and Red Witch.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, well, it takes more than just.
It takes more than just. It's supposed to be too synthetic.
Yeah.
It takes more than just writing in the stuff. You have to understand why these things are happening. There was a short film before this one, before Incredibles 2.
Oh yeah,
called Bow, that we all.
We
love.
got to take some time to talk about this movie too.
We will, and so I want to point out.
Is that how you say it?
Bow.
Yeah.
So like, so Bow is about a mother who well, spoilers, because really you should watch it first.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to spoil it, but so it's about a mother who dreams up this situation about Bao kind of personifying her son.
A dumpling, right?
A Chinese dumpling. And so the reason why this short worked so well is because you understood everything that happened at the very end, right? Everything came together at the end, and you're like, wow, like that just tied everything together. I know we talked about on one of our other episodes about retroactive appreciation, where you're like, you make everything better by the end, and it's like one of the shorts that we saw did that, which can work. It can only work in shorts because people can only have a certain amount of memory, but But yeah, to make a food object have such an emotional connection with you is showing authenticity at its finest, you know. And you can see these things happen, and you understand why they're happening. You don't just watch them happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost even liked, how do you say it again? Bao. I almost liked Bao more than the actual movie, The Incredibles.
Almost.
Too. Yeah.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
I'd go that far because
they're so.
it was original.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean they're original, and they're also way shorter.
I'm thinking about shorts all the time now, and so when we see a thoroughly proficient and literally flawless short film, which Pixar is pretty much batting 1,000 on. You know, they've put out maybe one or two that were misses, I thought.
Bao does something like that. It does this amazing thing with the imagination of the mother, where she kind of imagines this her and her son's relationship as it goes through the years, and it kind of personifies, you know, what her actual son and her did with each other, and the distance between them towards the end of their relationship, leading up to the present day. And I never really thought of it as I thought it was just kind of a fun idea, well, she had this dumpling that was like a baby, and then it got older, and it's showing all these kind of traits of adolescence and growing up, and now the dumpling's getting married, and I was like, oh, that's funny, that's kind of fun. And then the dumpling runs off, and then her real son comes in, and it just shocked me. I was like, whoa.
That's why this was a better movie than Incredibles 2.
Yeah.
Because none of us saw the ending coming.
Yeah. I didn't expect them to get that real with it, because it all of a sudden it took away all the fantasy and the fun of that kind of relationship and made it a very real thing.
There was something very fairy tale, very mythic and fairy tale about when the dumpling came to life and when she ate it.
Yeah.
You know, that felt straight out of mythology or a grim fairy tale. And I almost could have seen it just ending there, just sort of being kind of dark, you know. But then when that last shot came where they're sitting on the bed sort of crying together, and the son puts his head on his mom, it was like, oh yeah, this is a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
You know, and gosh darn it, you just made me think about my mom.
Right.
They're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good at
Absolutely,
that.
yeah.
So if this movie was a dumpling,
it'd be pork.
Are we to pizza ratings?
How long was this?
Oh, we're 36 minutes.
Yeah, a little shorter. I don't think I have that much more to say.
I think really it is every time that we come across a movie that we really, really like, there's not much to talk about because we're just everything fell into place.
Well, I think so too. When a movie's proficient, there's less to talk about other than pointing out what they do exceptionally well, which we've done here.
Right.
Except for when you have a movie that's beyond proficient, that is just exceptional. Then you have a lot to talk about.
Then you just gush.
Yeah.
Hereditary.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a threshold. There's a valley. It's stuff to talk about. Bad, good, amazing.
That's right. Yeah, so there's just to be clear, this film, Incredibles 2, is in the top tier of movies that we've covered on this show. It's up there with many of the other films that we've really liked. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
It's good.
But it's miles away from Golden Helmet. That's a separate category all of its own that very few ever cross into.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to see that again.
Yeah, it might literally be years before another Golden Helmet.
We've had 2 in a 1 year span.
That's true.
2 in 30 episodes.
Dune.
Huh?
Oh, man.
Dune by Villeneuve.
Yeah,
Villeneuve. My now favorite director.
Except it'll probably be 2021.
Yeah.
When that comes out.
Avatar 3.
It will not
2, 3.
It will not be or how about Avatar 5?
No.
Because aren't they making 4?
3.
They're making 4
simultaneously.
Yeah. Like, that is a fascinating story just because I can't wait to see how, like, what happens.
Yeah.
You know?
If any of them bomb.
Just to see what they do. And then what do you do if the first one bombs?
Right.
Right? Like, if just no one cares.
We already got $4 billion in this series.
Like, he just like everyone banked their money wrong, right? Like, Disney built a whole little theme park for it in Florida, you know, and
no one goes to it.
A lot of money being put into these movies. And if that first movie just one is not good and two no one goes to see, it's like, what do you got these 3 expensive movies sitting there that have to come out? Awkward.
All right, what kind of pizza is Incredibles 2?
D's
Kenny.
first.
D.
No, Kenny's first.
Fine.
Kenny.
Kenny doesn't do an analogy. He does just the story of the movie, and then tags pizza on the end.
Pizza. This is an easy one to give a pizza rating to.
Was it an incredible pizza?
Oh, that word's a bit overused, I think.
It was just good.
It's
good.
It's a pizza like Mama made. Like you ate growing up. It just takes you home, makes you feel like you're at home with your family in your childhood, and gives you all those good feelings. It may not be the best pizza you ever had, but it instantly fills you with that nostalgia that makes you realize why you like pizza in the first place.
That's great.
There you go.
That's good. That's better than I could ever think of. I can't think of an analogy.
Then I'll go. Very, very simple. The Incredibles 2 was like a fresh pizza, pepperoni pizza from Whole Foods.
Okay. Which is like your go-to.
Yeah, it's just really good.
It's not New York pizzeria.
No.
But
it's just really good.
Yeah.
And you can just get it. And it's super good.
There it is.
Yeah.
Nice.
This was a pizza that you go over to the restaurant and you're like, I remember I had this one pizza. It was really good. Do you have that pizza? And she knows instantly what you're talking about. And she brings out the pizza and you're like, wow, that's amazing.
All right.
Very simple.
Again, good movies make things less interesting. My last pizza analogy had something to do with a post-apocalyptic world, I think.
Yeah.
Government food rations.
When you said Hereditary's pizza, you were like, you just described Hereditary. This girl goes, and then her head falls off, and then
you eat a pizza.
And then you eat a pizza.
It's like you eat a pizza with nuts on it, and you have an allergy. You stick.
Good scene. Then we gotta cut that out. That's spoiler.
But we've already covered Hereditary. We expect everyone to see all our movies in order.
All of our stuff in order.
Yes.
What are we covering next week?
I have no idea.
Isn't the Meg coming out soon?
I actually really want to see that.
I can't wait to see the Meg. Shark movies are fun, but it'll be bad.
By the way,
BTE, BTW.
Every Thursday we review user-submitted short films. Mm-hmm. So if you happen to be a filmmaker and have some short film of any quality, scale, amateur, professional,
we've
doesn't
yet
matter.
to disqualify one. Well, never mind.
Yeah.
We've yet to... Anyway.
We are taking submissions on our subreddit, r/Carmeline Studios. You can go check that out. Link will be in the description.
Okay, so thank you again for watching another episode of the Talkies, and until next time,
he's Kenny.
I'm Kenny.
He's D.
And that's
Kenny.
And we'll
Laurel.
see you at the Talkies.